Hello students, today let me explain you about the various provisions of the Companies Act 2013 regarding the managerial remuneration. In the previous class, I have explained you about the maximum ceiling limit to the managerial personnel. The overall ceiling limit managerial remuneration payable to all the managerial personnel of a company is 11%, and the various slabs where the number of managerial personnel, including considering the number of managerial personnel, what is the maximum amount of remuneration payable to the managerial personnel on the basis of the profits of the company. And I also explained you, in case of insufficient profit, inadequate profit, or in the case of no profits, the remuneration payable by the company depends upon the provisions of Schedule 5 of the Companies Act of 2013. So what is that schedule? Specifies managerial remuneration under Schedule 5 of the Companies Act states that as per Schedule 5, Section 1, remuneration to be paid by the company having profits, and also Section 2 specifies remuneration payable by the company in the case of no profits or inadequate profits without central government approval. So, in the case of Section A, remuneration to be paid by the company having profits. If a company having profits in a financial year might pay remuneration to its managerial persons in accordance with the provisions of the Companies Act. As we have already seen, when the company has sufficient amount of profit, the managerial remuneration payable is as per the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. But in Section 2, remuneration by a company having no profits or inadequate profits without central government approval. If a company has no profits, the profits are not sufficient or inadequate, then how the company can pay managerial remuneration to the managerial personnel? So without the central government approval, without the central government consent, a company can pay managerial remuneration to the managerial personnel if the company has no profits or inadequate profits, where in any financial year during the period of managerial person, a company does not have any profits or inadequate profits, it may, without taking central government approval, pay remuneration not exceeding the higher of the following limits given below. Now here, in the case of inadequacy of profits or in the case of insufficient profits, company can also pay remuneration to the managerial personnel without taking the central government approval. Now that balance depends upon the higher limits. It can pay managerial remuneration without taking the central government approval, not exceeding the higher of the following limits given below. What is the limit which company can, maximum amount of remuneration a company can pay to the managerial personnel without taking the central government approval? As I have already explained you in the previous class, the maximum remuneration payable by a company when the company has inadequate profits without taking central government approval, depends upon the aggregate capital of the company. On the basis of aggregate capital, the maximum amount of remuneration payable is to be considered or taken into account. So, here, Part 2 of Schedule 5 states that, in the case of inadequate profit, managerial remuneration is payable to a managerial personnel, the limit applicable yearly basis like this. If the company has negative profit or less than 5 crore rupees profit, a company can pay a remuneration of the 60 60 lakhs per year. And if the capital of the company is effective capital of the company is 5 crores or more but less than 100 crores, it can pay 84 lakhs to the managerial personnel yearly basis. If the company's effective capital is 100 crores or more but less than 250 crores, it can pay a remuneration of 1 crore 20 lakhs to the managerial personnel, and if the capital of the company, effective capital of the company is 250 crores or more, then the remuneration payable to the managerial personnel is 1 crore 20 lakhs plus 0.01% of effective capital in excess of 250 crore. So this is the slab given, right? This is the rate at which the remuneration is payable to the managerial personnel, right? The maximum amount of remuneration if the, or in the case of inadequacy of profits, or in case of no profits of the company, right? If it is up to 5 crores, 0, negative to 5 crores, negative capital to 5 crores, 60 lakh can be paid. 5 crores, more than 5 crores but less than 100 crores, 84 lakhs should be paid. More than 100 crores but less than 250 crores, 1 crore 20 lakhs should be paid. And if the capital of the company is 250 crores, the amount of remuneration should be 1 crore 20 lakhs plus 0.01% of effective capital in excess of 250 crores, right? Now here the remuneration is purely depending upon the effective capital of the company. Now what is this effective capital? And also you must take into consideration the negative capital also. If the capital is negative also, the remuneration should be payable, isn't it? Therefore, you have to consider here how effective capital is calculated, or what includes the effective capital of the company. Now if you look at the provisions of the Companies Act, if a special resolution is passed by the shareholders, the above limit shall be doubled. Now whatever limit is given, 60 crore, 84 crore, 60 lakhs, 84 lakhs, 1 crore 20 lakhs and more than 1 crore 20 lakhs can also be doubled if a special resolution is passed by the shareholders in the meeting. So that is also a possibility in the case of payment of remuneration to the managerial personnel. Now here the remuneration is paid on the basis of effective capital of the company. Now what is this effective capital? Effective capital is the aggregate of paid up capital excluding application money or advances against share amount, right, if any, for the time being, standing to the credit of share premium account, right, reserves and surplus excluding revaluation reserve. Now it includes share capital, paid up capital of the company excluding share application money or advances against shares, and amount if any for the time being standing to the credit of share premium account, reserves and surplus excluding revaluation reserve, long-term loans and deposits repayable after 1 year excluding working capital loans, overdrafts, right, and interest due on loans unless funded, bank guarantee, etc., and other short-term arrangements as reduced by the aggregate of any investment except in the case of investment by an investment company whose principal business is acquisition of shares, stocks, debentures or other securities, accumulated losses and preliminary expenses not written off. So, how to calculate the effective capital? Now, effective capital is, or effective capital consists of the aggregate of paid up capital of the company, not all the capital, paid up capital of the company. Right here, application money or advances against shares should not be considered. Only paid up capital of the company should be taken into consideration, and the amount for the time being to the credit of share premium account. Share premium account, if there is any balance in the share premium account, that should also be taken into consideration, added to the paid up capital. Reserves and surplus of the company should be added to the share capital, paid up capital, excluding revaluation reserve. Revaluation reserve should not be considered. Revaluation reserve means a reserve created on the revaluation of fixed assets. If any such reserve standing there in the credit, then that reserve should be excluded or not added to the paid up capital. And long-term loans and deposits payable after 1 year, right? Long-term loans taken by the company and also long-term deposits taken by the company. All long-term loans and deposits are payable more than 1 year. So such long-term deposits, long-term loans should be added to the share capital or paid up capital, right? Similarly, excluding working capital loans, that means short-term loans, overdraft, interest due on loans, unless funded, right? Bank guarantee, etc., or any other short-term arrangement. Short-term arrangement means short-term loans and advances taken by the company. Short-term loans and advances are the loans and advances payable by the company within 1 year, isn't it? So, these items should be added to the paid up capital. What are those items? Items to be added to the paid up capital is, paid up capital plus all the balances which are standing to the credit of premium account, share premium account, reserves and surplus, right? And long-term loans and deposits, and all short-term loans and advances should not be considered, taken into not to be added. So, paid up capital plus security premium or share premium account plus reserves and surpluses and long-term loans and deposits are added to the share capital, paid up capital, and as reduced by the aggregate of investments. Here, what is to be deducted here? What is to be deducted to calculate effective capital? Investment should be deducted. Investment of only, right? Investment of only non-investment companies as reduced by aggregate of investments, except in case of investment by an investment company whose principal business is acquisition of shares, stock and debentures or any other securities. Now what investment should be deducted here? The investment made by the non-investment company. If investment made by the investment company, actually it is not an investment, isn't it? So it is the regular activity of that investment company. So other investments, right, should be deducted. Accumulated losses, preliminary expenses to the extent not written off should be deducted. Right? I hope you got an idea of effective capital. So paid up capital you have to take, reserves and surplus you have to take, share premium account you have to take, right? Long-term loans and long-term deposits you have to add, and deduct the investments, other investments, not investment made by the investment company, and deduct accumulated losses and also deduct preliminary expenses which is not written off. So if you consider this, the balance available, the balance arrived at the end of the year is, the balance arrived at the end is the effective capital. If that effective capital is less than 5 crores, right, 60 lakhs should be paid. It is more than 5 crores but less than 100 crores, 84 lakhs should be paid, right. It is more than 100 crores, less than 250 crores, right, 1 crore 20 lakhs should be paid, and if it is more than 250 crores, 1 crore 20 lakhs plus 0.01% of effective capital in excess of 250 crores. So this should be taken into account while paying the remuneration. In the case of insufficient profits, or if the company has no profits, inadequacy of profits. Now, Another important point to be considered here is negative effective capital. What is negative capital? Negative means zero. Negative means less than zero. Negative effective capital means the effective capital which is calculated in accordance with the provisions contained in explained part 1 of this act is less than zero. So, even if there is a negative capital, right, then also the company, the managerial personnel should be paid or should pay remuneration, right, to the extent of 60 lakhs, isn't it? So negative capital means, see, when you calculate, while calculating effective capital, you take paid up capital, you take reserves and surplus, security premium, long term loans and deposits, right, and you deduct investments, and you deduct preliminary expenses, and you deduct the accumulated losses. If the balance of this paid up capital and other surpluses are more than the investment and accumulated surplus, accumulated losses and preliminary expenses, now the balance will be positive capital, right? Paid up capital, reserves and surplus, security premium, long-term loans and advances and deposits are suppose more than the investments, right? More than the accumulated losses and preliminary expenses. Now the balance available is the positive capital. If the paid up capital, reserves and surplus, security premium, long-term loans and advances and long-term deposits are less than the investments, accumulated losses and the preliminary expenses not enough, then the balance will be negative capital, negative effective capital. Negative effective capital means the investments, accumulated losses and preliminary expenses not enough or more than the paid up capital and other reserves and surpluses. So, if it is a minus figure, then it is called as negative, or if it is less than zero, amount availed is less than zero, the balance will be negative capital. In the case of negative capital, also managerial remuneration payable to the extent of 60 lakh rupees, right? Now, the same schedule, part B states that in case of managerial person who has not a shareholder, employee or a director of a company, any time during the 2 years prior to his appointment as managerial person, 2.5% of the current relevant profit, a special resolution is passed by a shareholder, the limit shall be doubled. Now, part B of this schedule states that if a managerial person who has not a shareholder, and the managerial person who has not an employee or the director of the company, any time during the 2 years prior to his appointment as a managerial person, right? So, a person is not a shareholder, a person is not an employee or director of the company, right? Before or in the last 2 years, prior to his appointment as managerial person, the last 2 years, suppose he is not a director, suppose he is not a shareholder, not an employee of the company, right? Before appointing as a managerial person, he can get a remuneration of 2.5% of the current relevant profit, right? He can get a remuneration of 2.5% of the profit. If special resolution is passed, right, the limit can also be increased or doubled. Now, this is what the Schedule 5 of the Companies Act states regarding the payment of managerial remuneration in the case of inadequate profits, in the case of insufficient or no profits, right? A company can take into consideration the provisions of this Act while paying remuneration to managerial person in the case of companies having profit or not having profits. Similarly, we have seen here remuneration is payable on the basis of profits of the company. If company has sufficient amount of profit, it can pay remuneration at a percentage, maximum remuneration at a percentage of net profit. If the company has no profit, inadequate profit, the remuneration payable is depending upon the effective capital of the company. Now, here, the profit calculation for managerial personnel plays an important role. What profit should be taken into consideration to calculate managerial personnel? Whether the profit which is shown in the statement of profit or loss is considered or taken into account to calculate managerial remuneration, or what profit should be taken. But the section 198 of the Companies Act states, now to calculate managerial remuneration, the provisions of the Companies Act 198, the provision section 198 of the Companies Act 2013 states the profit should be calculated. Therefore, the managerial remuneration should be calculated on the basis of the net profits which is specified in the section 198 of the Companies Act of 2013. Now, what actually this section states? Managerial remuneration payable to its directors, including managing director, whole-time director, manager, is based on the net profit which is calculated as per provisions of section 198 of the Companies Act 2013. Now, this profit is different from the normal profit which is shown in the statement of profit or loss. So, you cannot calculate managerial remuneration directly on the net profit which is shown in the statement of profit or loss. Right? In the statement of profit or loss, the net profit shown, the net profit is after taking into account all the regular expenses, regular incomes, right, of the company. But such profit is not taken into account. So, what is the provisions of the Companies Act which is given in section 198 to calculate profit for managerial remuneration, net profit for managerial remuneration, isn't it? So, you need to consider, you need to take into account various items of expenses and incomes which is not to be considered while calculating profit for managerial remuneration. So, as per the section 198 of the Companies Act, right, some expenses, some incomes not to be considered and not to be deducted while calculating, right, the managerial remuneration and net profit for managerial remuneration. Now, let us see here what are the profits, what are the incomes that should be included in the profits. What expenses that should be deducted from the profits. As per section 198 of the Companies Act, the following are added to the normal profits. The following are added to the normal profits. What is added to the profits here? Bounties, subsidies received from any government or any public authority constituted or authorized by the central government. See, this profit is added. Or if the company has a gross profit, to the gross profit, these incomes should be added to the gross profit. Bounties received from the government, subsidies received from the government, any government or any public authority or the authority constituted by the government as per section 198 of the Companies Act. Now, this should be added to the profit. In the net profit, it is already added. If you take gross profit, it should be added to the gross profit. This item, right? And the items which should not be credited, the items which should not be added to the gross profit, right? As per section 198(3) of the Companies Act, the profits of premium on shares or debentures which is issued or sold by the company, profit on sales by the company of forfeited shares, capital profits in the case of sale of undertaking, Profit on sale of the assets of capital nature, fixed assets. Profit on sale of fixed assets, which is of capital nature, should not be added to the gross profit, or should not be considered, or should not be taken in the profits for calculating managerial remuneration. You have to add bounties and subsidies in the profits, but these items should not be taken. These items are considered as capital profits. So you know the difference between capital profits and revenue profits. And capital profits are the profits which are non-recurring in nature, which are not availed or arrived in the regular activities, regular course of the business, isn't it? So such profits should not be taken into consideration. Those profits are profits of premium on shares or debentures which are issued by the company. When a company issues shares or debentures, it can issue shares and debentures at a price higher than its face value, and that premium should not be considered for calculating managerial remuneration, isn't it? And profit on sales by the company on forfeited shares. When the shares are forfeited for the non-payment of any balances on shares, amount due on shares, the company directors can forfeit those shares, and they can, forfeiture means cancellation of the shares. Cancellation of the shares, and these cancelled shares can also be reissued to other persons, other parties, and at the time of sale of these forfeited shares, the company may earn profit. So such profit should also not to be considered, not taken into account for calculating managerial profit for managerial remuneration. Profit on sale of, right, by the company on forfeited shares capital profit, sale of undertaking. When the company sells a part of its undertaking, right, or the profit earned by the company from the sale of its undertaking, sale of its business, the profit of capital nature. The profit of capital nature should not be considered. Capital profit and the sale of undertaking should not be taken into account. And even in the case of sale of fixed asset also, the sale of fixed asset, the capital nature of the profit, when there is a sale of fixed asset, the capital nature of the profit, capital nature means sale minus original cost. Sale minus original cost, whatever balance is there, right, that will be capital profit, and the remaining profit is revenue profit. So only capital profit, when the assets are sold, suppose a machinery is sold for rupees 1 lakh and its original cost is 80,000, isn't it? 20,000 should not be considered, 20,000 is considered as a capital profit, sale minus original cost, right? The remaining profit should be considered as a revenue profit. It can be added to the profit for calculating managerial remuneration. Now, profit to the extent of capital nature should not be considered, right? Those incomes are not added to gross profit. Those profits are not considered. So, the expenses should be deducted. What deductions can be made from the profits here? What deductions are made? If you take gross profit, bounties are added, and these 4 items are not added. And if you take gross profit, all the below given items should be deducted. What are the actions to be deducted here? So, deduction from profit as per section 198 of 4 of the Companies Act. Section 198 4 of the Companies Act states that the deductions to be made from the profit, all the working expenses, regular expenses should be deducted. All the regular expenses. Regular expenses means all the expenses, remuneration, or all the salaries, wages payable, paid to the staff or employees of the company, right? Stationery, postage, printing, audit fees, advertisement expenses, insurance, right? All those regular expenses, day-to-day expenses, whatever is there, that should be deducted from the profit. Directors' remuneration, right? Deduction from the profit. Directors' remuneration, if it is given, it should be deducted. Bonus or commission to the staff should be deducted. any tax notified by the central government in excess of abnormal profit, tax on business profit for special reasons notified by the central government, interest on debentures, all interests, interest on loans advances, both on the secured loans and unsecured loans, expenses on repair, not of capital nature directed, contribution to charitable other funds, depreciation to the extent specified in section 123 of the Companies Act, right? It depends upon the Income Tax Act, the provision. Excess of expenditure over income, compensation paid for legal liability, insurance claim on legal liability, bad debt written off during the year. Now these are all the expenses which should be deducted, right, while calculating the net profit for managerial remuneration. All the expenses of regular nature, all working expenses, right? The payment of remuneration to directors, remuneration paid should be deducted from the profits. Bonus or commission payable, paid to the staff, payable to the staff members of the company. It is also comes under the expenses to be deducted. Any tax notified by the central government on excess or abnormal profit. So, any special tax or tax notified by the central government on excess or abnormal profit, that should also be deducted. Tax on business profit for special reasons notified by the central government. Tax on the business profit which is for special reasons and specified by the central government. Interest, all interest paid by the company. That may be interest on debentures, interest on loans and advances, secured or unsecured loans should be deducted. Expenses on repairs, if it is of a revenue nature, it should be deducted. Capital nature should not be deducted. Capital nature means heavy expenditure. Suppose heavy repair expenses incurred on a particular machinery or asset or any fixed asset, right? Heavy expenditure which increases the revenue earning capacity of the company is a capital nature. Only maintenance of the fixed assets are considered as repairs and maintenance. Revenue nature should be deducted and capital nature not to be deducted. Contribution to any charitable trusts or other funds can be deducted. Depreciation to the extent specified in section 123 of the Companies Act, right? Depreciation is also considered revenue expenses, but regarding depreciation, what is the maximum amount of depreciation that should be allowed for the purpose of managerial remuneration specified in section 123 of the Companies Act, right? And that depreciation should be to that extent only should be deducted. And even the income tax authority also specifies the maximum depreciation to be deducted. So considering those, the depreciation should be deducted, from the profits. Excess expenditure over income. Excess expenditure over income means excess of expenditure over income. This is more expenses than income. If the expenses are more, then there is a loss, and there is a regular loss. Compensation paid for legal liability. If any compensation paid for legal liability means legal suit. Suppose the court may order company to pay certain compensation, right, for breach of contract, compensation to workers, right? Such compensation which is arised on legal liability should be deducted. Insurance claims and legal liability should be deducted, and bad debts written on during the year should be taken into consideration. So all these expenses should be deducted from the profit, that is gross profit. The balance arrived will be taken into consideration, and the following items are not to be deducted as per section 198(5) of the Companies Act, right? These expenses should not be considered. These expenses should not be deducted. Income taxes and super tax paid by the Act. Income tax and super tax paid by the Act should not be considered. And any compensation, damages or any payments made voluntarily by the company. Here compensation or any payments which is arise due to legal liability can be deducted, but compensation or damages or payments made voluntarily should not be considered, should not be deducted. So voluntarily company may pay any compensation, voluntarily company may pay any damages. That voluntary payment made by the company for compensation or damages should not be considered. And even the loss of capital nature, if there is any capital loss, that also should not be deducted. Only revenue loss can be deducted, but capital losses cannot be deducted. So taking into consideration these aspects as per section 198 of the Companies Act, right, the company, should calculate the managerial remuneration, right, should calculate the net profit and calculate the amount for managerial remuneration, right. Now it depends upon calculation of profit depends upon the type of profit you consider as a base profit. If you take net profit as a base, in the net profit all the expenses are deducted, all the incomes are added, and from those expenses which is already deducted, the unallowable expenses which is suppose deducted should be added back, and unallowable incomes which is added already, it should be deducted, right. Net profit for major remuneration can also be calculated by taking the gross profit as a base. If you take gross profit as a base, right, all allowable incomes are added to the gross profit, all allowable expenses are deducted from the gross profit, right. So whatever expenses which are allowed, whatever incomes which are allowed, that we have discussed here, and unallowable expenses or incomes should not be considered. So the managerial net profit for managerial remuneration, calculation of net profit depends upon the, right, the profit you consider as base. Therefore, the items which we have discussed as per 198, section 198 of the Companies Act should be the base or should be taken into account for calculating the managerial remuneration, isn't it? Now let us have an example here. You can just note down this and take down this example. Following particulars. Calculate the managerial remuneration in the following situation: when there is only one whole-time director, when there are two whole-time directors, when there are two whole-time directors and a part-time director and a manager. Under these three situations, you have to calculate managerial remuneration on the basis of net profit. As you have already taken the maximum slab, maximum limit for managerial remuneration, when there is only one director and more than one directors together, what is the remuneration? When there is full-time director, manager together, what is the managerial remuneration? When there is full-time directors, part-time directors, manager and also other directors, other full-time directors or whole-time directors, the maximum limit for managerial remuneration you already considered or taken. So, in these three situations, in these three situations, you have to calculate the managerial remuneration with the information given below, right? Calculate managerial remuneration when there is only one whole-time director, when there are two whole-time directors, when there are two whole-time directors, part-time director and a manager, right? The expenses, the information is given here. Net profit before provision for income tax and managerial remuneration, but after depreciation and provision for repairs 10 lakh rupees, isn't it? The net profit given by the company, the net profit 10 lakh arrived is before taking income tax and before taking managerial remuneration and after deducting depreciation and provision for repairs, 10 lakh rupees. Now depreciation allowed as per Schedule 2 of Companies Act is 4 lakh rupees. Depreciation allowed as per Schedule 2 of the Companies Act. Allowable depreciation is 4 lakhs, isn't it? And provision for repairs of machinery during the year 30,000, but actual expenditure on repairs during the year is 20,000, isn't it? So this is the information given. On the basis of this information, you need to calculate the net profit for managerial remuneration. Now profit 10 lakh rupee is the profit given. The profit arrived 10 lakh rupee is before taking income tax, before taking managerial remuneration. Managerial remuneration is not deducted. Income tax is not deducted from this, but the amount of managerial remuneration, the amount of income tax is not given, right? And income tax also should not be considered or should not be deducted for calculating managerial remuneration. And managerial remuneration should be deducted if the gross profit is given. It is an allowable expenses, right? It is not deducted here, but the amount of remuneration also not given. But this profit is after deducting depreciation and provision for repairs. 10 lakh rupees arrived is after deducting depreciation and after deducting provision for repairs. It means depreciation as per the Companies Act, Schedule 2 of the Companies Act allowed is 4 lakhs, but we don't know what is the actual amount of depreciation deducted. We hope that the same amount of depreciation is deducted. So same 4 lakh rupees deducted and that is allowed also, isn't it? And repairs here, a provision for repairs is given during the year 30,000, but actual amount on or actual expenditure on repair is rupees 20,000. Now here, in the case of repairs, the provision for repair is already deducted from the profit of rupees 10 lakhs. Provision for repairs. But actual repair expenditure is only 20,000 rupees. 30,000 rupees already deducted, but actual expenditure should be 20,000. Isn't it? Actual expenditure on repair is 20,000, but 30,000 is deducted. Depreciation, we don't know what is the actual amount of depreciation, but depreciation as per Schedule 2 of the Companies Act 2013 is 44 lakh rupees. As per Schedule 2 of the Companies Act, depreciation is 4 lakhs, but we don't know what is the actual amount of depreciation. We can assume here that same 4 lakh rupees is deducted from the profit, right? 10 lakh rupees. Therefore, no need to adjust depreciation, but only we have to adjust the provision for repairs during the year and also actual amount of repairs during the year. So, in order to calculate net profit for managerial remuneration, you have to take into consideration the provisions of the section 198. Calculation of profit as per section 198 of Companies Act of 2013. A profit for managerial remuneration. Right? Now as I told you, this profit arrived is before provision for tax, but after depreciation. And provision for repairs. So this balance of profit 10 lakh rupees is arrived before provision for tax. We don't know what is the provision for tax, but depreciation is already deducted, and depreciation 4 lakh rupees we can assume here 4 lakh rupees deducted, and it is allowable depreciation. We can assume that it is allowable depreciation because actual amount of depreciation is not given. But in the case of provision for repairs, provision for repair is deducted, already deducted, 30,000 rupees deducted, but actual expenditure on repair is only 20,000. It means 10,000 rupees more is deducted. 10,000 rupees more is deducted. But actually, company should deduct how much? 20,000 only. But 10,000 rupees more is deducted from the profit. That 10,000 rupees you should add back. Actual amount of repairs are only 20,000. But provision for repairs created is 30,000 and it is already deducted from the profit of rupees 10 lakhs. So it means here 10,000 rupees more repairs are deducted from the profits. Therefore, that 10,000 rupees should be added back to 10 lakh rupees profit. That is why you can add back provision for depreciation, total amount of provision for depreciation 30,000 and deduct actual amount of depreciation 20,000. Isn't it? So, the excess amount of provision for repair which is already deducted from the profit should be added back to the profit once again. So that the profit for managerial remuneration as per section 198 Companies Act of 2013 is 10 lakh 10,000. Isn't it? 10 lakh 10,000. So 10 lakh rupees is the profit and depreciation is already deducted. Depreciation is already deducted from this profit and we don't know what is the actual amount of depreciation and total 4 lakh rupees deducted and 4 lakh rupees allowable depreciation we can assume here. And in the case of provision for repairs, 20,000, 30,000 rupees already deducted in the profit of rupees 10 lakh, but allowable repair is only 20,000. It means 10,000 rupees more repairs are deducted from the profit. That 10,000 rupees more deducted should be added back so that the net profit as per section 198 of the Companies Act is 10 lakh 10,000. So this is how you have to calculate net profit. For the expenses which is not allowed, if it is already deducted from the profit, it should be added back. Right? Therefore, only allowable expenditure is 20,000, but 10,000 rupees more is already deducted, so 10,000 rupees is added back to the profit. So, the profit for managerial remuneration is 10 lakh 10,000. You have to calculate net profit in these above circumstances. Okay? You have to calculate net profit in these three conditions. One is when there is only one whole-time director. What is the percentage of remuneration payable on the net profit? And when there are two whole-time directors, what is the percentage of profit payable to on the net profit? And when there are two whole-time directors and a part-time director and a manager, and what is the maximum remuneration payable to the managerial personnel? So here, when there is only one whole-time director, we know that what is the remuneration payable? It is 5%. 5% of the net profit. Right? Therefore, calculation of managerial remuneration. When there is only one whole-time director, the maximum limit is 5% of the net profit. There is 5% of 10 lakh 10,000. It is 50,500. Isn't it? When there is only one whole-time director, the maximum remuneration payable is 5% of the net profit. So 5% of the net profit, it is 10 lakh 10,000 comes to how much? 50,500. So when there is only one whole-time director, 50,500 rupees can be payable as managerial remuneration. When two whole-time directors are there, when there is two whole-time directors, the maximum limit is 10% of that profit. The maximum limit is 10% of. So only whole-time directors are here. Only whole-time directors, right? 10% of the net profit, 10 lakh 10,000. So 10% of the profit means here 1 lakh 1,000 is the maximum remuneration payable to the managerial personnel. And similarly, in the third circumstances, when there are two whole-time directors and a part-time director and a manager, right? All directors are here. All managerial personnel are here. Whole-time directors are there, part-time directors are there, and also a manager is there. When all the managerial personnel are there in the company, the maximum limit is 11% of the net profit. Right? So, 11% of the net profit comes to how much? 11% of 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 10,000. 11% of 10 lakh, 10,000 is 1 lakh 11,100. 1 lakh 11,100. Now, this is how you have to calculate manager remuneration on the basis of net profit. Arrived at the net profit calculated on the basis of section 198 of the Companies Act. So only one whole-time director, 5%, two whole-time directors, only whole-time directors are there, not all managerial personnel, only whole-time directors are there, or only directors are there, or only managers are there. The maximum limit is 10% of net profit, as we have calculated. 10% of net profit is 1 lakh 1,000, 5% of net profit is 50,000. And when there are all types of managerial persons are there, all whole-time directors, part-time directors, and also manager is there, the maximum or overall limit is 11% of the net profit. So 11% of the net profit we have already calculated. Net profit is 10 lakh 10,000 for manager remuneration, and 11% of the net profit comes to 1 lakh 11,100. Right? Now this is how you have to calculate managerial remuneration to the managerial personnel. Right? And while calculating managerial remuneration, you have to calculate the net profit, and the net profit is on the basis of section or the provisions of Companies Act, that is 198 of the Companies Act. Right? So all these things you must take into consideration to calculate the net profit. Right? Again, it is enough today. We will work out some more examples in the next class. Thank you.